Chat. YouTube and chat. We are back with another one of these creepy ass videos. The internet's darkest corner. I don't even want to know what this nigga found or what he's about to talk about this time, bro. I really don't, but here we are.
Alarm. Working structure fire. 7741 Liberty Road Drive.
Here we go.
It's 9 a.m. on May 18th, 2024.
He got the
Residents of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Bro got the creepiest voice in all of history.
Wake up to the smell and sight of black smoke billowing up into the sky. The source, a massive 7-story apartment complex, home to 239 luxury units, or at least what should have been luxury units. At the time, the structure was still under construction, meaning that thankfully no residents were living there. But this in and of itself presented 2 major problems. The first was that, in its current state, the top 5 floors were primarily just the bones of the structure, made almost entirely of wood and insulation, making the building as a whole extremely flammable. Meaning that, although the fire had started out relatively small, it was quickly going to consume the entire complex.
They got lazy towards the end.
Quickly. Which brings us to the second and even more glaring problem. The building was actively under construction when the fire started, and that morning 17 construction workers had clocked in, all of whom were now in grave danger. And by the time the firefighters arrived on the scene...
Oh, wow.
The situation was already dire.
Okay, but what's the darker?
So firefighters rushed in, finding a large group of the employees and leading them out to safety. Though when they made it outside, they made the horrifying realization that they had only found 15 of them.
That's the twist.
Somewhere within that labyrinth of burning wooden walls, 2 men were left behind, trapped and calling out to anyone who might hear them. And these pleas weren't just being made to those on the scene, as in the following minutes, one of the trapped men, 30-year-old DeMonte Sherrill, would take out his phone, open up Facebook, and go live, revealing the horrifying reality that both he and his friend had found themselves in.
Somebody send help, we're in South Park. Help!
Today we're going to be showing our friends the basic...
Well, I think I remember this video.
You might want to come along.
Yeah, I think I've seen this too.
If you own a computer, here's how to get the most out of it. Watch this, watch this, watch this.
6. Are y'all related? Yeah, good one, dude.
Yo, I'm at South Park right now.
South Park.
At work, the building on fire, and I can't get out.
The stream showed DeMonte Sherrill and his friend Ruben Holmes
I remember this.
deep within the prospective apartment complex. And though the fire hadn't yet reached them, the smoke certainly had, blanketing them in a thick, impenetrable fog.
You saw this on Facebook?
Not only making breathing extremely
You be on
difficult,
Facebook still?
but also making it nearly impossible for rescuers to see them.
It's getting harder and harder for them to see us. We're gonna have to stand out here and see.
Why not? If I said I was on Facebook, then y'all would be making all the jokes.
The building on fire, I'm trapped inside, me and my man.
This was likely one of the reasons why DeMonte chose to start this live stream, hopeful that it could show rescuers exactly where they were. But based on the footage, their positioning was far from ideal. They were on the second highest floor, floor 6, which had only one access point, a single stairway that was on the complete opposite side of the building. And based on their testimony in the footage, something had clearly blocked their path to that one remaining exit, meaning that the only other way out would be to jump.
Damn.
Though at 6 stories in the air, and falling into what would likely be the heart of the fire, this would have meant certain death.
Yeah.
There was quite literally nowhere for them to go. Rescue was their only hope.
Did they just say come out?
Yo, this building is on fire. I'm at work. Somebody send help, we're in South Park.
Seemingly realizing this, DeMonte began to grow more desperate, yelling out into the void of smoke, while Ruben can be seen in the background waving his phone flashlight, with both men doing anything they could to help rescuers find them. Before...
Oh, it collapsed, didn't it?
Help!
the stream abruptly ends. Rescuers were aware of the unfolding situation on the 6th story. They first tried to reach the men by using a massive crane with a basket attached, which can actually be seen in DeMonte's livestream.
Yeah.
Though in it, you can see that it's also facing the complete wrong direction, as the smoke was just that impenetrable. However, at one point, it's believed that the crane operator did actually see these men, but the blaze was just too extreme, leading to the operator himself having to be rescued. This left only one real option for saving DeMonte and Ruben. They were going to have to go in after them. And so they climbed that stairway up to floor 6 and started their trek to the opposite end of the structure.
Superheroes!
Though before they could even make it halfway, the rescuers were relegated to a slow crawl, as the inferno around them raged more and more intensely, and the smoke grew thicker and thicker. Though that's when they began to hear screaming.
Oh.
Somewhere lost in that maze, Ruben and DeMonte were yelling as loud as they could for help. This sound was a sign that they were getting close, though just then, rescuers would be met with another sound.
All companies working 7741 Liberty Road Drive, evacuate structure, per command. All companies working 7741 Liberty Road Drive, evacuate structure.
Command all companies, this will be defensive at this time. We'll be ready for this side to collapse. Everybody get out of the collapse zone. Confirming you are coming out, but you're not out of the building.
With the order being made for all of them to evacuate, as by this point, the structure was engulfed in flames, and a collapse was imminent. The firefighters tried to call out to the two in one last attempt to guide them towards rescue, but they never came.
Damn.
In fact, at that point, the structure fell eerily silent. They would leave that structure without DeMonte or Ruben, and minutes later, the fire consumed the entire building,
Damn.
with the temperature inside reaching 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, before
it collapsed.
it would eventually topple to the ground. And inside, DeMonte and Ruben would become the sole fatalities of this catastrophe.
Yo, I'm at South Park right now, at work, and the building on fire, and I can't get out. It's getting harder and harder for them to see us.
Damn.
Knowing how the story ends would make this live stream difficult for anyone to watch, but what I find most upsetting about it is that the majority of those who initially watched this were his own friends and family that followed him on Facebook, with these viewers including his own mother.
Oh, shit.
And a lot of them probably had no idea he even worked this job, as he had just been hired that week. His brother had also caught the stream as it was happening and actually rushed over to the scene where he pleaded with the firefighters to watch the footage.
Yo, this man screamed for help online.
But despite doing the best they could, there was just too much working against them to save DeMonte and Ruben. Following an investigation into the fire, it was discovered that the crew was using an organic foam insulation, which was known to be extremely flammable and produce thick black smoke. And this became deadly when the machine used to spray that insulation caught fire, sending the whole building up in flames, where they had yet to install any sort of smoke detector or alarm system to alert the crew of a fire. Making matters worse, there had been a temporary set of stairs made right where the two men had been trapped, but that stairwell had just been removed in order to make way for the permanent set of stairs.
What?
Because of this and a myriad of other issues, the companies involved with this construction were forced to pay a fine of $50,000 and are currently being sued by the families of both victims.
Good, get that shit.
But regardless of the outcome, nothing will ever make up for the loss of DeMonte Sherrill and Ruben Holmes.
Damn. Just got the job too. The Johnny Cashman incident.
Things were getting concerning.
So trash, bro.
Johnny Cashman spoke to his family nearly every single day. But now, on the 6th day without receiving any communication from him, they knew that something was wrong. Johnny lived in Lynchburg, Virginia, hundreds of miles away from his home in Maine, and so being unable to check on him themselves,
I would never live in a place
called
called
police in the
Lynchburg.
area and requested a welfare check. Police entered Johnny's apartment on the 19th of April, 2022, and hours later, they would call his parents with the news that they had found their son dead on the floor.
Damn.
According to the officers, Johnny had experienced some sort of medical event that led to GI bleeding that ultimately claimed his life. But this made no sense to Johnny's family. He was only 38 years old and had just been given a clean bill of health after a full medical exam only 4 months prior. It was so out of the blue, in fact, that they even asked if there were any signs of a struggle or if there was any evidence that he may have taken his own life. But they were assured that there was no trauma, no drugs, and nothing suspicious found on the scene.
For sure don't
and
care.
that, as shocking as it was, his
Wait, this is random. Have any, well, not really, because this welfare check reminded me of it, but have any of y'all seen or heard of the play or the movie Dear Evan Hansen?
cause of death was entirely natural, and had likely just been spurred on by drinking and tobacco use, with the only solace being
I just discovered it like a few weeks ago, and I'm not gonna lie, I've been playing the Broadway, like the soundtrack, over and over again. It's so good. It's so good.
that Johnny didn't suffer, as they stated that he had died instantly.
Ill gay.
Because of this, no autopsy was
fire,
performed,
dude.
as the case seemed as straightforward as it gets. And despite his family questioning if they should get their own autopsy, they were told by officers that it wouldn't be necessary. And so, Johnny's body was cremated and sent back to Maine,
What?
in what seemed to be the end of Johnny Cashman's story. Ten days after Johnny's body was discovered, his ex-girlfriend and her mother made their way back to his apartment in order to retrieve some of her belongings. She knew that re-entering the space was going to be difficult, but ultimately there was no way she could have prepared for what was waiting for her inside. There was blood everywhere. It was pooled in the bathrooms, wiped on doors, spread all over the living space, and was even found on a chair and a banister. But the
Wait, hold on, wait. Wait, what?
Power flash again.
Oh my goodness.
I don't see debris. I don't see debris.
Wait, where's these guys?
Connor's up. People. Oh my goodness. There is.
Where's the guys that were chasing
There's
this?
serious damage. This is a destructive tornado.
They're not even.
I really hope to God everybody's okay in that house.
Oh shit.
Alright. Nobody. We're good here.
Okay, nobody in that house, thank God. This is Stormer Media. This tornado might be 2 miles wide. This is just huge.
Y'all hear the horn blaring? That shit is terrifying.
This is going to be going to Monette and Leechville in northeast Arkansas.
A new tornado.
Brandon Kopic is like inside of this tornado right now. Brandon Kopic's gotta be careful. He's like inside of it.
It's multiple niggas. Oh shit! These niggas are insane.
Or maybe in the RFD, one of the two. Might have been RFD.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't really know how much further you want to go. It's just keep on. Just
There's major damage. Connor's driving through it too. I'm gonna go back to live radar. Just guys, if you're just tuning in, this is a major tornado that is in progress right now in northeastern Arkansas, and it's gonna be moving into Missouri. They have issued a rare tornado emergency. This is the highest level tornado warning that you can possibly get, including areas near Leechville and also heading towards Blytheville as well.
These alerts are terrifying.
It's going to also go towards Cartherville, which is in southeastern Missouri. This is a wedge tornado that has been in progress over the last several minutes. You've got to be in your storm shelter, basement, closet, or bathroom. Get away from windows and get on the lowest floor possible. This is a catastrophic tornado that is currently in progress. We've had a huge debris signature on this as well. You can see it right here. There is significant debris. We've seen it with Connor too. There's major tornado damage.
Look at these power cables.
This is a violent tornado that is still moving to the northeast and is going to be moving in the direction of Blytheville. Also, the Cape Girardeau storm is still PDS. There is a new tornado in progress that's approaching Cape Girardeau in Missouri. You need to be in your safe place if you are in this warning. There is a new tornado, once again, that is approaching this area. So you need to be in your storm shelter, basement, closet, or bathroom. Get away from windows and get on the lowest floor possible.
It's more than one?
As this is another tornado that is in progress going towards Cape Girardeau. We are currently sitting at 24 tornado warnings. We have this tornado emergency, obviously. And we're going to go back to Stormer Media, who has this. Connor is currently in the damage area.
A new tornado warning has been issued.
Oh my gosh.
This is a view of it. It looks like this tornado's gotten like rain wrapped or something. Or even wind wrapped, which would mean like wind getting wrapped around it.
This is an emergency alert. A tornado emergency warning has been issued.
What do we do? Well, I'm trying to
go back, turn around, because it's
Looks like it's gonna miss Black Oak to the north, and it's gonna hit Manette.
Let me go back to Brandon Kopic. This is a photo from moments ago. This was from Brandon Kopic, who was on this tornado. This is a close-up from Brandon Kopic, who's also on YouTube.
Save them. What the fuck? They shouldn't even be out there, but like, I mean, they documenting it, which I understand, so that, you know, people know just how crazy it is. Respect to them.
We still have a serious tornado right now approaching Monette. Obviously, you can't see it as well as before, but this has become like a rain-wrapped tornado that is approaching Monette, Leechville, Clearwater, currently in northeastern Arkansas. This is, again, a extremely dangerous situation. It's again, we have the highest level tornado warning here. This polygon with the dashed pink and black lines, that is a tornado emergency that is in place. Again, that's the highest level warning you can get from the National Weather Service, and it includes Blytheville, it includes areas south of Kennett, Lake City, Manila, Leechville. You're all included in this tornado emergency, and we still have a huge tornado in progress. We're gonna go back to Stormner Media and Brandon Kopic. Let me go to Stormner Media here and see if they have any updates. I'm not sure if they still, if there is, there has to be a tornado here still. There's no way there isn't.
I mean, on it, like, you telling me to do something, all I can do is tell you, why the fuck are you living in Tennessee? What the hell you...
see what else is on this.
What the hell you doing in Tennessee, bro? Oh, these niggas on
There
it.
is I think, a river here, which is blocking their...
Holding inflow just to our south.
Oh, these niggas is on it. They insane. Oh, nah. They tripping. Oh, shit!
Getting to their safe place. There's not really many places you can go when you have a tornado like this. The best place you can really go is get to the, basement, a storm shelter. Connor has a flat... Oh, Connor has a flat tire. That's what happened. Well, hopefully Connor is okay, because he's... I mean, I don't think there's another storm behind it that's tornadic right now. Oh, no, there are plenty. There are plenty behind him. Hopefully he's able to get help. But really the best thing you can do in a situation like this is get to, a basement, a storm shelter, if you can.
That is actually terrifying. Hell no.
Most horrifying part of it all was the walls. They were covered in splattered blood, which revealed long streaking handprints. It was something straight out of a horror movie, and although Johnny's cause of death was deemed natural, what they found in that apartment seemed anything but.
So how you lie like that?
Traumatized by what they were witnessing, the pair snapped multiple photos of the bloodshed and ran out of the unit, directly into Johnny's neighbor. This neighbor revealed that they believed something far worse than a medical emergency had happened to Johnny, as they had a security camera mounted to their door which faced Johnny's unit, and on the day of his passing, it captured something incredibly disturbing.
Oh my gosh. That's why I love his videos. He got video shit, like evidence of shit. That's a creepy ass. This is a creepy ass house, or like unit, or.
The footage shows Johnny making his way up the flight of stairs leading to his apartment at around 3:03 p.m.
Also, it's kind of crazy that you got your camera set up there because you can see his code to get into the house.
Nothing seems out of the ordinary at all, though it is noteworthy that he was holding an empty glass, perhaps insinuating that he had been drinking. But this doesn't seem to impair his movements much at all, as he punches in the code and enters his home, just as he did every other day. But moments later, something happens inside that unit, and while it goes unseen, it doesn't go unheard.
1 minute after entry.
What the fuck? What are you doing? Yo, what the fuck, dude? What are you doing, man? What are you doing, man? Stop. Stop.
The audio seems to depict a man yelling, asking repeatedly, "What are you doing?" and begging for something to stop. On top of this, you can also hear loud thuds and banging, almost as if things were falling over inside, or there was some sort of physical altercation.
You don't got a video
before the unit then goes quiet just a few seconds later. It was unclear if this voice was Johnny's, or perhaps someone else who had been inside the unit, but regardless, one thing was apparent from this audio. There was someone else in that apartment, despite the fact that Johnny lived alone. And just 7 minutes later, this unseen person would emerge.
What the fuck?
This clearly wasn't Johnny, and after leaving the unit, the anonymous man nearly makes it out of the building before he seems to change his mind. Turning around and walking back up the stairs before fiddling with the door handle, touching it only with his sleeve, like he was wiping off his fingerprints. He then walks down the stairs and stops once again, where he seems to be in a state of shock over whatever had just transpired, before he composes himself and walks out of the building. But the footage wasn't quite finished yet.
Oh my god, dude.
Just 1 minute later, you can hear Johnny shouting for help from inside the apartment, to which moments after, he stops, and no further sound or activity would come from Johnny's unit until police arrived 5 days later.
Oh!
The footage and the scene at the apartment seemed to contradict what Johnny's family had been told about his death.
He was alive!
The blood all over made it obvious that Johnny's death had not happened in an instant. And this, coupled by the presence of this unknown man who was clearly distraught and wiping off his fingerprints, as well as the sound of the apparent struggle inside, seemed to point towards something much more sinister than what was initially conveyed to the family.
What the fuck?
But even with this footage, police still believed that Johnny's death was due to a medical emergency.
What?
As they quickly changed their initial story, saying that the blood spread was due to uncontrollable vomiting, and that Johnny had in fact likely suffered, at least for a short while. But
brother, we just watched the video.
This medical emergency wasn't elaborated on, as they didn't truly know what caused it, as no autopsy was ever performed, nor could one ever be performed, as by this point, Johnny was already cremated because of the officer's initial statements. So if Johnny had actually been murdered, which the footage does seem to suggest, there was now virtually no way to prove it. And what makes this even more frustrating is that law enforcement already had this footage. It was collected that very day, and they either didn't fully look through it or didn't think that this was overly suspicious. But everyone else surely did. And soon, this video began making the rounds online, leading to one glaring question being asked. Who is this man? As no one in Johnny's life recognized him. Well, it wouldn't be until May 11th that investigators would finally ID him as Stephen Church. And upon being questioned, he revealed that he had moved to Lynchburg for work, but the opportunity he had lined up fell through shortly after he arrived, leaving him with no money and without a place to stay, which is when he met Johnny, who offered to let him crash on his couch. He supposedly stayed with Johnny for 3 days, and described Johnny as an alcoholic who drank constantly, including on that fateful day. When Johnny arrived home, Stephen claims that he started drunkenly yelling at him about paying rent, which led to the two getting into a verbal altercation. But he insisted that this altercation never turned physical, and that he left immediately after, to which he quickly went back to clean his prints because he was afraid that Johnny would try and have him arrested for squatting. And having already racked up 2 felonies in his life, Stephen was paranoid about going back to jail. But when Stephen was leaving, he did mention seeing Johnny hunched over the toilet as if he were going to vomit, but he claims to have left before this so-called medical emergency started. This is the gist of Stephen's account from that day, but the problem is, it doesn't really match up with what we're hearing in the video.
Bro, does he know one of the cops or something?
From the footage, we can hear everything
that is
going on.
Creepy to listen
but
to.
At no point do we hear any sort of an argument, nor do we hear anything about rent. with the phrases lending themselves more to a physical struggle rather than a verbal one. In fact, the whole time it appears that we're only hearing one voice. But there is an exception. To my knowledge, it's never been conclusively determined whose voice is who in the recording, and either scenario paints a far different picture of what may have happened inside that room. But regardless, this audio makes it clear that Steven's story was fabricated at least to some degree, as he also fails to account for the loud banging in the background. And because of this, his version of events is generally rejected, with most people seeming to believe one of two main theories. The first is that, upon arriving home, Johnny and Steven had gotten into a physical altercation, resulting in Johnny taking some sort of blow to his abdomen, which in turn triggered or exacerbated this medical emergency. GI bleeds are horrific, and can certainly cause the level of bleeding that was found in the apartment, and perhaps seeing all the blood coming from Johnny, Steven started yelling at him, before deciding to run off, fearing that he would be charged for murder. This would explain Steven's demeanor and actions after leaving the apartment, and why he may have fabricated his story, as he knew or knows that he was directly responsible for Johnny's death. And this blow to the abdomen could have easily been missed by investigators, as the injuries would have been primarily internal. The second theory is that upon arriving home, Johnny naturally experienced a medical emergency leading—
Tell me if I'm wrong, but he could be possessed. Would likely be the story he would use in court to, plead insanity. It like he knew what he was doing there, bro.
To this catastrophic—
Bro came back and wiped his fingerprints and everything. I think he knew what he was doing.
GI bleed. Upon seeing this and perhaps being in a state of shock, Steven yelled at him, demanding to know what was happening and telling him to stop, as perhaps he was moving around the apartment and tracking blood everywhere, which would explain the other voice saying, "I can't stop." I could see how this experience would make no sense to Steven, and perhaps just having no idea what was happening, he left and tried to make it look like he was never there, as he was afraid of being blamed for whatever was happening to Johnny, and so he essentially left Johnny there to die, whether knowingly or unknowingly. What bothers me about this theory is why 911 was never called, not only by Steven, but by Johnny too, as his phone was found in the unit with blood on it, implying that he had it in his hand at some point, though it's possible that the massive blood loss just made him too disoriented. Both of these theories seem believable, or at least more so than the explanation that Steven had given. However, in October of 2022, Johnny's case would officially be closed for good, with Steven being cleared of any wrongdoing.
Wow.
As Johnny's death was labeled the same way that it always has been, a medical emergency that couldn't be further elaborated on, with the most relevant evidence being that Steven's shoe prints were not found in the blood, but Johnny's were, implying that he had not been part of the struggle. But in my mind, this can be explained by both theories mentioned previously. Though regardless, without the possibility of an autopsy, this is likely where this case ends for good. But with this disturbing footage, I can't help but think that there was more to the story than we may ever know.
Damn, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like he just got away with something. TikTokers find a body.
It was around 7:30 a.m. on a warm July morning back in 2019. 17-year-olds Bethany Martin and a 16-year-old friend decide to walk to a gas station near their home in San Antonio, Texas. And as the two of them made their way down the road, their path brought them parallel to a drainage ditch, which was often filled with various trash and other discarded material. But on this day, something far more interesting caught their eye. It looked like a man crouching down and leaned up against one of the concrete walls, but the closer they got, the more they realized how unusual his posture was. He looked completely unnatural, and he wasn't moving. And by the time they came face to face with him, the reality of the situation would hit them. They had just found a dead body. This discovery was enough to traumatize anyone, especially two teenagers, and upon calling the police and being sent on their way, Bethany and her friend would make the long walk back home contemplating what to do next, before they eventually landed on the idea of sharing their experience with the world. And so, as soon as they got in the door, they began to set up lights and their camera in order to film a TikTok. The clip showed the two sitting on a couch appearing to be in a state of shock, with the words, "Us remembering we found a dead body this morning," plastered on the screen, offering no other context aside from the description, which simply read, "I wish we were kidding, all respect to the family." Some offered sympathy for the girls, while others viewed their post as insensitive and exploitative, but others weren't even convinced it was real, partially due to this glaring lack of context. But any doubt of this post's legitimacy would be quickly thwarted by a discovery made not even one full day later, as it was revealed that this recording hadn't actually been the only video that these two girls had made on that fateful day.
Don't tell me they killed him.
On their walk to the gas station, the girls had stumbled across the body of 25-year-old Marcus Adams, with the young man having seemingly perished earlier that morning, with it being apparent that he had taken his own life. But upon finding Marcus, the girls weren't actually overwhelmed with sadness or even shock, as instead, their focus immediately went to something far different, as something on the man's body had caught their attention: his necklace. The girls really liked it. In fact, the unnamed 16-year-old had said that it matched her fashion perfectly, and so before police arrived, the two would once again pull out their phone and start recording, showing Bethany approaching the body with her intention being to grab his necklace, which she eventually does, removing the medallion and giving it to her friend, before tossing the chain into the grass nearby, leading to the girls running away from the scene. The 16-year-old would then post that video onto her Snapchat story for all of her close friends to see. I can't show the footage for obvious reasons, but it's truly awful. And just based on the audio alone, you can tell that they're very obviously having fun doing this.
You gotta do it now. Now or never. Here, hold me. I got it. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
There's something so uniquely disturbing about it. It's clear that upon finding the body, there was no real emotional impact on them, at least none that outweighed their desire to steal from it. And as if stealing from this man who had just taken his own life, and posting it for all their friends to see as if it were a joke, wasn't horrible enough, they then immediately posted this other video to TikTok in an attempt to garner sympathy. It's truly awful, and made even more appalling by reports that claim that the 16-year-old had actually worn this medallion in the TikTok video and in others made following its posting. And unfortunately, their actions had even more upsetting consequences, as the footage from their Snapchat story was quickly downloaded by someone they knew and posted onto an app called Nextdoor, with the footage being totally uncensored. And it was on this app where it's claimed that many of Marcus Adams' own family members would see the footage, many of whom weren't even aware that he was deceased. Just one day after posting this TikTok, both girls were questioned by the police after the incident and the footage was reported to them, and as a result, Bethany would be charged with theft of a human corpse, but would ultimately avoid any serious jail time.
Obviously.
Meanwhile, the 16-year-old's name and charges were never publicly released, but we do know that the medallion was returned to the family. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Bethany would later come back to her TikTok page shortly after her arrest and share her side of the story, where she gave a less than half-hearted apology, while also
this, like, you can tell she just craves attention, dude.
Claiming to be the victim, saying that her friend had pressured her to steal from Marcus, as well as pressured her into making that TikTok in the first place, because she thought it would be a hit. Though obviously this didn't go over well.
Holy shit, she just needs attention.
On December 20th, 1984, 12-year-old Janelle Matthews disappeared from her home in Greeley, Colorado in the evening hours. Earlier that day, she had...
Holy shit, wait a minute. Yo. Look at the fucking...
This is a view of that storm actually right now. Top right of your screen on the radar Omega cyclone port, there is a wall cloud that is forming on this, which is why there is a tornado warning. So we do have a wall cloud. That is a beginning stage to having a tornado.
Another one.
So that is again heading towards...
Another one.
Sung at a Christmas concert with her school's choir, which her parents were unable to attend, as her mother was out of town and her father had gone to her sister's basketball game nearby, leading to Janelle catching a ride home with a friend, being dropped off at her house sometime around 8:15, where she excitedly spoke to her father on the phone, letting him know that she had arrived home safe and sound. Approximately 1 hour later, her father, Jim Matthews, pulled into the driveway to find the garage door wide open,
fuck that,
and the
bro.
House completely empty.
Yeah, fuck that.
Janelle was gone, leaving behind her winter coat and even her shoes, despite it being a frigid, snowy night. And it was within that snow that was quickly piling up that lie one of the only real clues left behind at the scene. footprints leading directly to one of the home's windows, insinuating that someone had been watching Janelle.
Weirdo, first of all. Chat, quick question. Would y'all, whenever y'all have a child, are y'all going to let them go to sleepovers? Are y'all going to let them go to sleepovers? Yes or no? Yeah, no. This is like something that I've been like thinking about, even though it's like that this wouldn't come to like years down the line, but it's just something I keep going back and forth with myself with because of all the weird shit I keep seeing and hearing about. It's like, damn, I don't want to take away. If I know the family, yeah, that's a good one. And it's like, but what about the other kids though? Like, you can trust the family, but it's like, what if the other kids are weirdos? Because there's been times where they've been at sleepovers and like the kids there like killed a kid or some shit like that. Some weird shit. It's like, you just never know. They can come to my house. That's what I'm thinking. Like, if they want to have a sleepover, or if he wants to have a sleepover with his friends, it would have to be here. It would have to be at my house. But then again, I don't want them to know where I live. So it's like I don't know, bro. It's just a fucked up situation.
12-year-old Janelle Matthews.
You still want your kid to be a kid, but it's like the world is so fucking scary. How do you let your kid go out, and just be a kid? It's just fucking too scary, dude.
She was disappeared from her Greeley home 1 month ago today. It's believed she's the victim of a kidnapping. She has not been seen or heard from since December 20th.
Her disappearance became a big news story almost immediately, with the whole community and really the whole country becoming invested in the fate of this girl, thanks in large part to her being one of the very first milk carton kids, meaning that her face and information about her disappearance was shown on countless milk cartons all across the country to get the word out. And as a result, this case became huge in the mainstream media, as even politicians began to make note of Janelle's story, with then-President Ronald Reagan mentioning the girl in one of his speeches.
I learned about Janelle Matthews of Greeley, Colorado, 5 days before Christmas. Janelle disappeared from her home.
Though even with this publicity, this didn't necessarily guarantee results, and soon months would turn to years, and eventually to decades. And all the while, Janelle's whereabouts remained a complete mystery. Eventually, the rise of the internet would start to play a key role in this case, where even in the late 2010s, over 3 decades after she had vanished, her case was still being shared and still being discussed, just as it had been 3 decades prior, with it still being a point of contention for politicians, even as recently as 2019. When a man running for governor of Idaho mentioned her disappearance in a Facebook post, 35 full years later. Regardless of Janelle's whereabouts, her case was still very much alive, as the world, and especially Janelle's parents, were haunted by the question, what happened to Janelle Matthews? But sure enough, in late 2019, they would finally get their answer.
Was found in Weld County earlier this week appeared to bring an end to a 3-decade-long search for a missing 12-year-old girl. The Greeley Tribune is reporting they are those of Janelle Matthews.
On Tuesday, July 23, 2019, at roughly 4:50 p.m., a crew had been digging in an isolated field in Weld County, Colorado, in order to install a new pipeline, when they would uncover the decayed remains of a little girl. It was Janelle, still wearing those clothes that she had worn to her recital, meaning she had likely died the very day she disappeared, having been killed by a single gunshot wound to the head. Janelle Matthews had been murdered in cold blood, and almost immediately upon finding her body, the police would also zero in on their suspect.
What the fuck?
The man's name was Stephen Pankey.
Oh my God.
At the time of Janelle's disappearance, he had been living in the same general area in Colorado. But by 2019, Stephen had long since fled the area, as after the crime, he would eventually pack up seemingly out of the blue and move to Idaho, where when Janelle's body was discovered, he just so happened to be running for governor. And during his campaign, Pankey had put out a bizarre Facebook post about Janelle, calling for the Colorado DA to oversee a fresh investigation, as he stated that the local police had wrongly been focused on the theory that Janelle's disappearance was a child abduction and murder, which was quite convenient, as just a few months after posting this, he would be arrested for the abduction and murder of Janelle Matthews. Police believe that Janelle had first caught Stephen's eye when he was working as a janitor at the church she attended, with this leading to him stalking her and eventually abducting her on that fateful night, where he threw Janelle in his car and ultimately ended her life, for no reason other than his sick satisfaction. He then proceeded to bury her in a field 20 miles away, in a spot that he was certain no one would ever find her. Now, the evidence supporting this
got her just to kill her?
Is mainly circumstantial, but it is incredibly concerning. Just one day after Janelle's abduction, Panky decided to take his wife to California in order to celebrate the holidays with his parents, with this trip being completely unplanned, as his wife was only told of it literally the day of. And making things stranger, when they returned home, Stephen's car conveniently caught fire and was burned to a crisp, to which he offered no explanation for. But in response, he would take the car to a local scrapyard where it would be even further destroyed, taking any potential evidence along with it. But while this is all strange enough, police say that the main indicator that Stephen was their man was his clear obsession with Janelle's case. Shortly after the slaying, Stephen began listening and watching any news reports he could on Janelle's case, while also having his wife read every single article about the missing girl out loud, to which he would often have her repeat them over and over again. But his obsession didn't stop there, as he would then start frequently calling the police, wanting to talk to them about the case, even going as far as to give them potential leads, as he claimed to be fearful that he was going to be blamed for the crime, despite having seemingly never even met her.
Why would you throw, oh my God, that's just the guilt talk. That's just the guilt coming out.
And it was during some of these many unusual phone calls that he was said to have given details on her disappearance that were never actually made public. His obsession was entirely uncanny, bringing up her disappearance at random even decades later, with his Facebook post being a perfect example. And as it turns out, one of Stephen's most incriminating statements came as a result of something he mentioned in that infamous message. In it, Stephen says that his son Carl had been murdered in 2008, which is in fact true, as the murder was actually fully solved, with it being confirmed that Stephen had nothing to do with it. But when he was mourning the loss of Carl, something unusual happened. His now ex-wife recalled that following Carl's death, Panky never once cried, until the day before his memorial service, where she watched him from a distance walk up to their son's urn and begin to sob, eventually blurting out, "I hope God didn't allow this to happen because of Janelle Matthews." Despite maintaining his innocence to this day, Panky was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 2040, his conviction coming 12,634 days after Janelle Matthews' disappearance, with Panky's cryptic Facebook post serving as a dark relic of his twisted obsession that would eventually expose him as Janelle's killer.
Oh my gosh.
I want to give a massive shout out to my buddy Ryan, aka Nexpo. A lot of you already know this, but Ryan is a really good friend of mine, and I'm super proud of him because he just released his very own podcast called Late Nights with Nexpo.
You know what's crazy? It's just fascinating how we got the technology that we could find a decayed body, human remains, bones, and figure out who it was, and get like you can literally get hair off of that shit and find out who the person was around that shit, bro. Oh my gosh, yeah. Let's turn some lights on, bro. Oh my gosh, please, dude. I love black people! Oh my god, bro. No, I don't want to see a video weirder than this, bro. This is my weird dose. I need no more.